Well, hello everyone and welcome to a new kind of small thing. You might have been aware that Simon Dan has recently covered the Kryptonite Physics channel, and I thought I'd give it a go myself, as Kryptonite Physics is a pretty funny name, I would say. And here they are testing the ball. In that case, let us test it and see what they say.
Hello again.
Good morning.
Today we will look at the mainstream physics explanation.
You know it's already going to be one of these videos when there's the computer voice talking? Or is it just me?
On why mass from the North or South Pole will weigh less at the equator.
It does! There's a very well known thing, in fact. That's due to a couple of things. The two major ones are that when they're under the equator, and assuming that they're stationary, they weigh less due to the centrifugal force at the equator, and they are actually a tad bit further away from the center of gravity, although the second effect is a lot weaker, like a lot smaller in magnitude than the first one.
Then we will turn that physics explanation into kryptonite physics.
I assume by kryptonite physics he means physics that goes against the globe model, I assume.
Mainstream physics tells us that at the North Pole, 90 degrees latitude, a mass of 1 kilogram and 9 kilograms, on a scale, will weigh 1,000 grams and 9,000 grams.
I mean, you might as well say a kilogram and 9 kilograms, right? No need to write it out in grams, but alright, sure.
Those same...
I mean, strictly speaking, the force that it weighs, like the mass is obviously 1 kilogram, but the force that it weighs is the mass multiplied by the gravitational acceleration, which usually comes out to around 9.8, 9.81. In extreme cases, it can go as low as 9.78. So the mass is of course a kilogram. What it weighs will be 9.81 newtons for in case for the 1 kilogram, and the scale just knows that it's programmed into that is 1,000 grams.
Two masses are moved to the equator. Both are placed on a scale. The 1 kilogram mass will now measure 996.55 grams.
There or thereabouts, yes.
The 9 kilograms mass will measure 8,969 grams.
Exactly.
This is due to the rotation of the globe and the centrifugal force acting in this direction on.
That's the biggest contribution to this, yes.
The masses 3.45 grams and 31 grams for the 9 kilograms. The 31 grams force for the 9 kilograms mass is a vector.
Well, forces are not, the unit of force isn't grams. I would encourage whoever kryptonite physics, right? Should you ever see this video, which you won't because I have 3 subscribers, thank you to all 3 though. Should you ever see this video, it would be really nice if you would use newtons instead of grams, because newtons is actually the unit of force here. Now, I get what you're saying. You say here that this kind of weight is detracted from the weight that points downwards, right? So I get what you're trying to say. Of course, you probably know, or in case you don't, I am currently doing my master's thesis in astronomy, and I've also studied physics. So you know, but of course I get what you're trying to say. But in case of sheer physical accuracy, this is not exactly how I would put it. But it's you know, they're getting there. Probably, I don't know.
That mass is now producing a force of 31 grams.
Force, again, is not grams, force is newton.
In that direction.
But the direction part I'm okay with. Mainstream
physics makes no account that the scale is accelerating at the same rate as the mass.
Did you notice that both of these are standing still? So like I would say that the force acts upon it the same way. And why should it make a difference on the scale if the force acts on it the same way?
It presents the scale as static, and only the mass is accelerating.
Well, again, it's not really accelerating because it stands still. So it is being, a force is being you can say it's accelerated, but then you kind of need to go all the way down, and the way is on the scale, and the scale is on the table, and the table is on the ground, and so forth. Or you might just say there's a force acting on the weight and on the scale, of course, at the same time, because they're both being pulled to the ground. So
This isn't my main point.
I'm glad it is.
It's time for kryptonite physics.
Yes, we've been waiting. Please go on. Also, I'm curious about the point with the scales, as if that would change anything. Of course, the scale is purposefully built, right? The way most scales work, not all of them, right? Not like a comparison scale, the two with the two arms of the scale, not these scales, but like digital scales, the ones that I assume he means. Digital scales usually, not always, usually work with a piezoelectric element, and the piezoelectric element fundamentally doesn't care if there's also a force being acted upon it. I mean, not the scale itself, right? I don't know. It's a very good point to bring up, in my opinion.
What are we told about a mass at the equator? Gravity attracts a mass at a rate of 9.8 meters per second squared.
That's the global average, yes.
It is rotating at 1,039 miles per hour.
The fact that he uses they use miles per hour, and I've mentioned that in videos before, tells me that they are not a scientist. Also, and that's just a small thing, right? I'm not complaining. Important point here. I'm not complaining about production quality, because have you seen the production quality in my videos? Yeah, but I mean, just out of pure curiosity, what graph is that? Like you have this weird pink things here. Why? What is that? Where did they come from? I'm curious. What is that?
Because of the rotation, a mass has centripetal acceleration towards the center of rotation at 0.03386.
Well, the problem is that centripetal as well as centrifugal forces are a bit of a complicated topic when you look at them both at the same time. They arise from, in principle, you, or like from something not being in the same reference frame as something else, right? So if you're rotating and like on your desk chair or something, and your colleague in the office who's sitting still will have to if he examines movement within your reference frame, he will have to add centrifugal or centripetal forces.
Meters per second squared.
But in general, I would always use centrifugal forces, because in this case, the force is very much pointing outwards, not pointing inwards. The centripetal, I'll explain it later. Let's finish.
From this acceleration of the mass, our mass has centrifugal force. For the 9 kilograms, this would be equivalent to 31 grams. For the 1 kilogram, it would be 3.45 grams.
Wait, hang on, sorry.
It is rotating at 1,039 miles per hour. Because of the rotation, a mass has centripetal acceleration towards the center of rotation at...
Okay, he said acceleration. Okay, I thought for a second there he said force. I'm sorry. Let's continue.
From this acceleration of the mass, our mass has centrifugal force. For
the the way you draw it here,
this would
if you had an acceleration inwards, you would also have a force inwards. The red arrows here are the centrifugal force. I'm fine with those, right? I mean, hey, you even have them in Newton there. That's great. But the yellow ones, I'm not okay with, really, because at the end of the day, they are the centripetal force in this case doesn't apply, and they are definitely not being accelerated to the ground by the rotation. They are accelerated away. How would you? I mean, you have a formula here which is very poorly written, because I think this I should be in like a lower I in the index. Maybe use a typesetting program like LaTeX, for example. Other than that, why the minus here is very odd. I would be interested in where you got that from. Yeah, that's odd. If you have an acceleration inwards, your force is also going to be inwards.
Mass. Our mass has centrifugal force. For the 9 kilograms, this would be equivalent to 31 grams. For the 1 kilogram, it would be 3.45 grams. Centrifugal force is the same force you would feel when you are pushed back into your seat when a car is accelerating.
No. Centrifugal force is not the force you would feel when a car is accelerating. The important part about centrifugal force is that it only applies when things rotate. It arises. In my bachelor's degree, there was we had classical mechanics, like theoretical classical mechanics, a course at which I was rather bad at. But I still remember deriving the centrifugal force that just comes out of when you shift your reference frame from a rotating system to a system that doesn't rotate, and out of there naturally comes a force. Now, that's not the force you feel when a car accelerates. The force you feel when a car accelerates is just kind of the force that results from matter not wanting to move. It's sometimes called inertia. It's a resistance to movement. That's what you feel when a car is accelerating. However, what he might have meant, and just put it poorly, when there's a curve in the street and you're being pushed in like to the side of your seat, or like to the wall of the car, that's centrifugal force.
Let's go back to the equator.
Also love how he's using miles again and grams. It's a very weird unit mix up here.
2 9-kilogram blocks from the North Pole.
Yes. I believe I know where he's going. He will now compare them, or they will now I will say he. I'm sorry, because I think it's a he. I should say they. I apologize. I think I know where they are going with it, and they will say that, well, if you have 9 kilograms at the North Pole and 9 kilograms at the equator, they don't weigh the same, and you could abuse that for substances like, I don't know, gold or oil or something like that. And I'm waiting until they make the point, but you know.
Due to the upward centrifugal force of 31 grams, each mass is showing 8,969 grams.
Okay.
Let's switch things around. 9 kilograms on the ground, the scale on the top. The force of 31
why
grams
would you do that?
is pushing against the scale.
No, it's not. I mean, okay. If you will, it is. Yes, okay. You can look at it. If you're at the equator, a force of 31 grams would be pushing rather on the scale from the bottom. You need to take into account though that you know that the scale is solid. It'll just go with it. I don't know what it is. The scale is in the same reference frame as the weight, and thus the same acceleration is applied to the scale. And this downward arrow you have here would actually cancel out the centrifugal force. That's the wrong thing.
As the scale has nothing to push against, it is showing a reading of 0.
Not exactly a nice explanation. But I mean, yeah, if you will, I'd rather say it's in the same reference frame as the weight, and thus, I mean, and for obvious reasons, there's nothing on the actual weighing part of the scale, right? So, yeah, you can go with the pushing off, I guess.
We place the other 9 kilograms on top.
So now you have a weight, a scale on top, and a weight again. So it'll weigh the same thing as the one on the left would. Clearly.
The scale on the ground will measure 8,969 grams.
Yes.
The scale in the middle will measure...
No. So you're telling me that if I have the scale on a table, okay, if I have the scale on a table, the weight on top would suddenly weigh more. That's what you're telling me, right?
9,000 grams, 9 kilograms.
Why would it?
If the friction is the same for both 9 kilograms, the truck can accelerate at any rate until a mass falls off. The scale
I don't know what he's on about now.
in the middle will show no change, as the force from one counteracts the other.
You know, a scale can, like, I get where he's going. He's going at that scale should be compressed, if you will, kind of, right? With this depiction here. But really what's happening is the scale, because you know it's a scale, it measures the compression electricity that comes out of a piezoelectric material normally. Not all scales, most scales. However, it of course doesn't matter what's below it. I mean, of course, if you have an extremely heavy object below it, like a huge lead ball, it'll influence the results slightly by like 0.0 gram or something, 0.01 grams or something. But for these types of measurements, when you have 9 kilos resting on top of a scale, resting on top of 9 kilograms, of course it's not going to influence the other thing. Could you imagine? Imagine if you have if you're having the scale not on the ground, but like in the second floor of your house. Shouldn't it measure that too then? I'm very confused as to why you would think that would change, right? Because the scale measures only things that rest atop it, really, you know? Yeah. Also, the scale is also influenced by the same acceleration upwards, so, you know.
If the friction is the same for both 9 kilograms.
Okay, so we have a truck now that is accelerating very slowly towards this way, and you have a weight, a scale, and a weight. Okay.
The truck can accelerate at any rate until a mass falls off. The scale in
at that rate, no mass is going to fall off, probably. But
the middle will show no change.
Yeah.
As the force from
Sure.
one counteracts the other.
I don't know what he means by counteract, honestly.
The same as our 2 blocks of 9 kilograms.
No, I mean, again, that's wrong for the reasons I've just explained. Imagine what you could do with that, right? That's even a bit more silly than the point I was thinking they would originally make.
You can now test the globe.
But but that's not what the globe would say. You do realize that, right? You've critically misunderstood what's going on here already when you explained why the upwards force arises. Then you're labeling the force with grams, and I mean that thing on the right here is completely ridiculous. The music has stopped. Oh, okay. Okay. We're doing the same with 1 kilo now. Oh, so the dear God, so the table somehow influences that. I didn't know that. Did you know that it actually matters what you rested on top of? That is completely ridiculous and a massive misunderstanding. It might be a thing of them not understanding like the addition of forces, I believe. Or in that case, acceleration suffices, really. Yeah, it's the same flaw of thinking every time. Oh. I'm skipping here because... Okay, that's just the outro. Okay, so in conclusion, what are my main counterpoints here? First of all, force is in newtons. You always write grams here. Grams are a measure for mass, and mass is not a vector, so these vectors that you have here are wrong. Now comes in the thing with the centripetal force. In this case, doesn't apply. Here you only need the centrifugal force. The acceleration from the rotation in this case is not downwards, but actually upwards. So the red arrows here is more or less correct. I mean, you have /grams written here. The strict way would be here to say that turns into so and so many grams, which I would be okay with. The yellow arrows here are completely wrong. I have not gone through any of your numbers. I hope that you can apply the fundamental things here correctly, and from what I'm seeing here, fine. Other than you using miles and miles per hour, and then you switch over to metric, which is a bit odd, but you know, whatever. And here comes the big part, which is marvelously wrong. Okay, so the scale. Okay, so you have to weigh the one of the weights here. It has some newtons. It says it up here, 0.3 newtons of upwards force and 9.81. I'm going with 81 now, downwards. So I would rather have it. Oh no, I said newtons here. I meant meters per second. Let's say 0.03 meters per second squared upwards and 9.81 downwards. The same goes for the scale, and the same goes for the mass on top, right? And the scale measures the downward force exerted on it. That's what scales do. And the downward force for this weight is the same as for this weight. And that's why the scale will not measure 9,000 grams, but rather 8,969 grams. Very fundamental misunderstanding here. Yeah, that's the main things. I hope you enjoyed this. I will eventually come back to the videos because I think they're rather amusing. Yeah, so with that, I thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please do maybe consider liking, or dare I even suggest you consider subscribing. If you did, it would make my day. And yeah, with that, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye!